sanctification is the invitation to our holiness, the channel that we are, and then the concepts that come through the channel. And it's really great that today's lesson rests on A Course in Miracles lesson of the day, which is, I am among the ministers of God. And what do ministers do? They attend to the needs of someone. They're helpful. That's it. A Course in Miracles tells us that we're here only to be truly helpful. So it's actually a really easy role to play, but it's been polluted with all of these thoughts and ideas of the world. In fact, sometimes you might think like to say that you're among the ministers of God feels arrogant. Sometimes it might even feel like there needs to be some sort of false humility. You know, like I need to walk or be a certain way. And it turns out, no. I mean, this is a prime example of that. You know, that you just are invited to come as you are. There's no spiritual superiority involved in being a minister of God. That everyone is your teacher and you are everyone else's teacher. And that this is done and given in equal measure. So there's no hierarchy. In the past, we've lived in lots of religions that had major hierarchy. Like, you could only go to the middleman to get to your God. Like, this is heresy. It's just simply not true. Within each of you is an internal compass and wisdom that will invite you into knowing a deeper revelation with your divine. Revelation is something that's reserved for you and your God. Miracles happen between you and your brother. Revelation happens between you and God. And a revelation is something that can't be shared because it's beyond words. And so it's almost like you want to say, like, you just have to be there. Like, if you had a revelation, if you had a holy moment, if you had a moment of peace where you felt the revelation of your holy existence, if you tried to share it with it, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's only for you. You don't even need to share it. We don't want to wrestle with this concept of being ministers of God. We are ministers of God. This is who we are. And in our ministry of God, the invitation is to be impeccable with our inclusion and our extension. Think about inclusion, extension, inclusion, extension. It's breath. God should be synonymous with your breath. So the inclusion, which means including everything, and then the extension meaning giving all to everyone, which seems crazy. Like, that seems absolutely crazy. These are not in alignment with the rules of the world. First of all, inclusion, like, don't we get to have VIP rooms with God? Don't we have to say, our God's bigger than your God? Like, we have to give that up? And that everyone's our teacher? Like, the minister down to the homeless man is our teacher? That's what true inclusion looks like. And extension, true impeccable extension, means that I am giving all to all like the sun. And this is a possibility for us. So though we might not be living in the optimal idea of our spiritual authority, at least we know the direction that we're moving in, and that we can creep a little bit closer to it during this holiday season, where we're really affirming to ourselves that we are among ministers of God, that we are here to own that, to accept that. In fact, you won't be able to extend it if you haven't accepted it. God sees your strengths and knows where they can best be applied. And all you need to do is to listen up. This voice appoints your function. It says it relays this function to you. It gives you the strength to understand it and to do what it entails and to succeed in everything you do related to its success. And it's like, don't worry about that concept. Comes with everything it needs to fulfill its purpose. This is not just for your own benefit. This benefits everyone when you deliver the concepts of God. And this voice that came to the Blessed Mary, you know, simple girl from Nazareth, a teenager. And the angel came to her and said, you know, joy be to you, favored one. The Lord is with you. You'll have a son. You'll name him Jesus. And Mary was surprised. How could this be? And the angel said, don't worry about it. The Holy Spirit's going to make this happen. Your child will be the Son of God and the light of the world. And Mary said, let it be done unto me. So even in that little space, we have the opportunity to reinterpret the gospel. When he says favored one, like, uh-oh, like she was God's favorite. I have a sister, Mary, funny enough, who really thinks she's Jesus' favorite. And she has lots of t-shirts that tell the world, God loves you, but I'm Jesus' favorite.
That's hilarious.
It is, it's funny. But, you know, it's good to have a sense of humor. It's like when you used to go to your mom and dad and say, who do you love more? Like, who are your favorite?
Right.
You know? Who do you love more? It's funny. It's just funny that we want to be the favorite, but that's ego right there. You know, that's the VIP room. And that God can love the lilies and the flowers and the roses with equal measure, even though they're all different, they're all special, they're all favored. So our role is to see that we live in God's favor, that we each live in God's favor, that God favors us, that we can trust that. So Mary demonstrates this. She's this young girl. She's full of grace. And she's willing to see beyond her own agenda. You know, I'm sure she didn't have plans for this on her agenda, like I'm going to ride a donkey to Bethlehem and I'm going to deliver the light of the world. In paragraph 5, it really helps us in the Course of Miracles. It says, a messenger is not one who writes the message that he delivers, nor does he question the right of him who does, nor ask why he was chosen, those who will receive the message that he brings. It's enough that he accepts it, gives it to the ones to whom it was intended, and fulfills his role in delivery. If he determines what the message should be, or what their purpose is, or where they should be carried, he fails to perform his proper part as bringer of the word. So, that's pretty clear. God wrote the message, you just need to deliver it. The message is love. So Mary does this really quite eloquently. And she doesn't dabble in earthly ways or worries or, or wonderings. Like she just says, let it be done unto me. I mean, that's such a beautiful idea. Have you ever allowed yourself to move into agreement that you know is a divine conception to say, I don't know how it's going to happen, God, but just let it be done unto me, because I know that you got this. I've found, maybe you have too, that sometimes in the past, I have come to engagements like, I got to do a good job. And whenever I think I got to do a good job, I screw myself. You know what I mean? I'm like sweaty, I look like a junkie. You know what I mean? But when I go, okay, it doesn't matter what I do. God's going to do this through me. All is well. Let me get out of the way. It's like so much more peaceful. So that's the difference between doing it in grace and doing it in ego. And in the Bible, Luke tells us a story about these two women who conceived and received the concept of God. Both of these women were, by all worldly standards, like a crazy choice. Like, it was like, God, what are you thinking? Like, one of them 60 or 70 years old, she's barren. Like, she's never had a child. And the other one is a virgin. So, if you want to deliver a baby, you're going about it the hard way, right? And both of them had every reason to think, like, this is not for me. Like, this is not for me. Like, obviously, God chose the wrong person. But we remember, when we get to this point in the story, that God doesn't call the qualified, God qualifies the call. And everyone is called, and you don't have to negate what God knows to be true about you. God has already said, you're completely capable of fulfilling the function that I give to you. The only person that has to get on board with it is us. Like, we're our own biggest hurdle. I don't know if that's true for you, but that's true for me. So God has a plan. He sends angel first to Zechariah, Elizabeth's husband, and, Elizabeth. They call her Elizabeth the barren, which I think is just such heresy, because she was never barren. She just didn't have a baby for a little while, but she actually gave birth. You know what I mean? So why don't we call her like Elizabeth the fertile, or Elizabeth the one who gave birth a little late in life? Because Elizabeth the barren is just letting somebody live on a old reputation of themselves. And don't we hate when we do that to ourselves or somebody does it to us? Like, oh, Maureen, you're always like that. Like, give me a chance to live into a greater idea of myself. Don't confine me to old stories. This can happen around the Thanksgiving table, right? Like, this guy's the artist, this guy's the physician, this guy's the smart guy, that guy's the joker. And then we just sort of request that everybody shows up and plays their role. But we get to, like, look again, to show respect to our brother, to really see the holier version of each other. So these two women, Mary and Elizabeth, these two were answering the call to being channels. Despite what the world said. They said, I'm authorized by God to deliver this to the world. And I don't know how it's going to look. And it might not be easy. I might be riding on a donkey. Maybe, I don't know, that sounds hard to me, but maybe at the time that was luxury. Maybe it was the Mercedes of the day. I don't know. So I won't assume anything. But sometimes when we say yes to these things, sometimes there's like growth spurts where we have to learn things. So, but the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing that angel Gabriel does for these two women is he knows that there's going to be trepidation in the receiving of this concept. And so he gives them this very short phrase, and simply he says, be not afraid. So he takes this concept, he hands it to them, he cloaks it in this concept of be not afraid. He's saying, don't plant this seed in nervous and fearful soil, because you will abort it before it even sees the light of day. By your own messing things up. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I have done that. I get a concept and then I overthink it and overthink it. You move into analysis paralysis and you never get something past the finish line. Because I forgot to know that God's authoring this, I'm just the channel. I don't have to invite fear into this. So, but if you cloak this in love, in the joyful soil that says, joyful expectancy that thy will be done, then the soil of my consciousness and love will birth forth the optimal idea of this concept, of this seed. What is a concept? A concept, and we all receive concepts all the time. A concept is the first cause. A concept is a beginning idea. A concept is the noble nod from God. It's saying, yeah, this is for you. A concept is a gift. God gave Mary the concept, the idea. You'll give birth to the Son of God. And Mary says, let it be done. And then she goes over to Elizabeth. Mary makes haste to Elizabeth's house, to Zechariah's house. And as she heard Mary's greeting, a baby leaped in Elizabeth's womb and was filled with the Holy Spirit. And she cried out with a loud voice, "Blessed among women are you, and blessed is the fruit of your labor." Blessed is the fruit of your womb, actually. She doesn't say labor, she says the fruit of your womb. So that's the Hail Mary. So who wrote the Hail Mary? Elizabeth, thank you very much. So everything that's good, beautiful, and holy is written by God. So Elizabeth says, blessed are you among women, blessed is the fruit of your womb. And then she says, how is it that this could happen to me? That the mother of my Lord should come to my house. For behold, when the sound of your greeting reached my ear, the baby leaped to my womb. And blessed is she who believes that there would be a fulfillment of what has been spoken to her by the Lord. Let me just say that a little bit slower. Blessed is she who believes that there would be a fulfillment of what has been spoken to her by the Lord. So she's looking at Mary, she's saying, you're telling me a crazy story right now. You're going to give birth. You're a brave little chick. And I also, because I believe in the possibility of your God, I also become impregnated by that faith. And so now I'm not going to say, who do you think you are? How come you get to have all the good gigs? Instead, it's a beautiful example of women being supportive of women and saying, I'm so excited by your news that I'm impregnated by it. And I'm going to deliver something that's going to support this ongoing love affair that happens between John the Baptist and Jesus. Lesson 169 gives us a little invitation of how we might go about moving into the acceptance of the concepts of God as we move to Christmas. And it says, by grace I live, by grace I will receive. Grace. It's all about grace. Grace is an aspect of love, which is most like the state prevailing in the unity of truth. So grace is when all things are equal and everything is loved and in harmony with all things. It's the world's most lofty aspiration. So it's saying this is the optimal idea you can reach in this world, is to be filled with grace. It leads beyond the world entirely. It's past learning, yet the goals of learning. For grace cannot come until the mind prepares itself for acceptance. Grace becomes inevitable instantly when those who have prepared a table where it can be gently laid and willingly received, an altar clean and holy for the gift. So Mary must have prepared that table. She was clean and ready and willing and holy to receive that. Her table was set. She was up for it. So when we think about that, are we preparing for all of our blessings? And how are we preparing for all of our blessings? A grace period in regards to the world is a time out, an expansiveness of time, where we say, let me take a little grace period here. During the holiday season, we're programmed for the rustle and the hurry and the hustle. So it might be that, as usual, the world has got it backwards. That we want to move into a greater degree of going at the pace of peace, of going slower, of slowing down, of savoring. Grace is an established place where we find peace. Grace washes over us and lifts us from the fray. Grace is the unflinching truth that is true like a river that runs its course without stress or struggle. Grace is the word describing the movement of a dancer who expresses a certain fluidity of movement that catches your breath and stands you still. Grace has the power to settle things, to solve, to save, to strengthen. Grace is able to hold all that is and place no investments in guilt. It is gentle and healing and soothing and surprising, and it greets us in our broken places and announces our perfections. That's grace. It redeems and restores. It's the birthplace of the resurrection. Grace is the chalice of joy, and it comes without the need of grandeur or defense. It springs from itself in audacious generosity and sits with us in our darkened hours and limited patience. And if we ask for it, it will come. Wash us clean of our illusions and limitations. This is grace. So breathe in that idea of grace for yourself. and extend that idea of grace for everyone you come in contact with. Offer everybody a grace period. Everyone's actually doing the best they can. These past 3 weeks, we've been dipping into the 4 agreements, like I said, and today we want to continue that just a little bit. I'm going to give you just a little bit about what is how we work with not moving into assumptions. And again, we have these great examples, Mary and Elizabeth. They didn't assume that they knew better than God, even though it didn't make sense. They came with open minds and open hearts and open hands. And our assumptions help it to keep us small and safe and little. It's something that we already know. So we base these agreements on things that are in the past. So with assumptions, we want to come open. And when we have assumptions, we weave ourselves into very tight corners. And we rest on our illusions of what we think we know. And we could become addicted to committing to our assumptions. And then we start to maintain them. And then we actually can move into full-blown crucifixion. Because we know what we know, and you're wrong. So assumptions is a really good thing to erode. This holiday season, these are some common assumptions. If someone is wearing a wedding ring, we assume they're married. If someone is not wearing a wedding ring, we assume they're not. We assume doctors and police officers are trusted servants. We assume car salesmen are not to be trusted. We assume that because we are more of a liberal church that everyone is a Democrat. That's an assumption. We honor all paths, but we assume that everybody's on our path. We assume that if we have a lump, we assume it's cancer, and we assume that we're going to die. That's the assumption. We assume bad drivers are just jerks. We assume that we have enough time and that we won't hit traffic. We assume when someone's late that they don't care so much. We assume homeless people are drug addicts. I'm sorry, we assume young people are lazy and old people are crabby. And gay people are artsy and blonde people are stupid and rich people are greedy. And we assume we know better than God. And we assume that redheads are more fun. But that's So, we're going to move into the holiday season assuming only love. And we're going to attempt to move in greater grace. And we're going to listen for the direction of the divine. And we're going to affirm, I'm the minister of God. How would I conform myself if I truly, truly, truly was a minister of God? And we're going to allow that the concepts that come to us during this holiday season, that we're not going to wrestle with them, that we're going to dance with them, and we're going to speak the truest prayer that could be spoken. Let it be done unto me. I trust you implicitly. And that's the word.